A Diary of an African Husband. Episode 5, The Dinner of Silence. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the living room. Kunle sat in his chair, staring at the clock on the wall. Its ticking seemed louder tonight, almost accusatory. Ada's footsteps echoed from the kitchen, each step deliberate, each clatter of a pot or plate sending ripples through the strained silence of the house. Kunle looked down at his hands, rough and calloused from years of work. He used to take pride in them, proof of his dedication to providing for his family. But now they felt like the hands of a stranger. "Dinner is ready," Ada called from the kitchen, her voice devoid of warmth. He stood up, adjusting his black shirt. He paused for a moment, smoothing the fabric as if the action could somehow iron out the tension between them. Titi came running into the room, her laughter filling the space with a fleeting sense of normalcy. She wore her favorite white dress, the one with tiny embroidered flowers, her hair tied back in neat puffs. "Daddy," she giggled, grabbing his hand. "Come on, Mommy made rice and stew." Kunle let her lead him to the dining table, where Ada was already seated. She wore a crisp white blouse and a long black skirt, her hair tied in a low bun. She didn't look up as they entered, her focus on the bowl of rice she was dishing onto her plate. Kunle pulled out a chair for Titi, his movements slow, deliberate. He glanced at Ada, hoping for a moment of connection, but she kept her gaze firmly on her plate. "Mommy, why aren't you smiling?" Titi asked, tilting her head as she looked at her mother. Ada paused, her spoon hovering over her plate. "Eat your food, Titi," she said quietly, her tone clipped. Kunle felt the weight of Titi's curious gaze shift to him. He forced a smile, though it felt like a mask cracking under pressure. "Let's eat, my princess," he said, trying to divert her attention. The meal began in silence, the clinking of cutlery the only sound filling the room. Kunle's appetite was non-existent, but he forced himself to take small bites, the stew tasting bland against the turmoil in his mind. "Daddy," Titi said suddenly, her small voice breaking the quiet. "Why isn't Mommy talking to you? Did you do something bad?" Kunle froze, his fork halfway to his mouth. He looked at Ada, hoping she would step in, but she remained silent, her expression unreadable. "Sometimes grown-ups just need time," Kunle said finally, his voice strained. "But you're always talking before," Titi pressed, her innocent curiosity cutting through the tension like a knife. "You always make Mommy laugh. Did you make her sad?" Kunle swallowed hard, his throat dry. He looked at Ada again, silently pleading for her to say something, anything, to ease their daughter's concern. "Titi, eat your food," Ada said, her tone sharper this time. Titi's face fell, and she turned back to her plate, pushing her rice around with her spoon. The sparkle in her eyes dimmed, and Kunle felt a pang of guilt stab through him. The rest of the meal passed in strained silence. Kunle couldn't stop glancing at Ada, her face a mask of indifference. He wanted to reach out, to bridge the growing chasm between them, but the walls she had built seemed insurmountable. After dinner, Ada cleared the table without a word, her movements brisk and efficient. Titi tugged on Kunle's sleeve. "Daddy, can you read me a bedtime story?" "Of course, princess," he said, grateful for the distraction. He led her to her room, the small space filled with colorful books and stuffed animals. Titi climbed onto her bed, clutching her favorite teddy bear. "Daddy," she said softly as he tucked the blanket around her. "Do you think Mommy's mad at me too?" Kunle's chest tightened. "No, my darling," he said, brushing a curl away from her face. "Mommy loves you very much. She's just tired, that's all." Titi nodded, but her small face was still clouded with worry. Kunle kissed her forehead and began reading from her favorite storybook, his voice steady even as his heart ached. When Titi finally drifted off to sleep, Kunle returned to the living room. Ada was seated on the couch, her arms crossed, her gaze distant. "Ada," he began cautiously, his voice low. She didn't respond, her focus fixed on a spot on the floor. "We can't keep doing this," he said, stepping closer. "The silence, it's not just hurting us, it's hurting Titi." Ada looked up then, her dark eyes filled with a mixture of anger and pain. "You think I don't know that?" she said, her voice trembling. Kunle hesitated, startled by the crack in her composure. "Then talk to me," he pleaded. "Tell me what's wrong. Tell me how to fix this." She let out a bitter laugh, shaking her head. "Fix this? Kunle, you don't even know what's broken." Her words hit him like a slap, and for a moment he was speechless. "Then help me understand," he said finally, his voice soft. "I'm trying, Ada. I'm trying to be better, but I can't do it alone." Ada looked away, her jaw tight. "You don't get it. You say you're trying, but all I see is the same man who forgets. The The same man who doesn't listen. The same man who takes and takes, but never gives back. Kunle's heart sank. I never meant to make you feel that way, he said quietly. But you did, she said, her voice breaking. And I don't know how to forget it. The room fell silent, the weight of her words pressing down on them both. Kunle sat down on the couch beside her, leaving a careful distance between them. I'm not perfect, he said finally. I've made mistakes, Ada. But I love you. I love Titi. And I'm not ready to give up on us. Ada's shoulders slumped, and for a moment, she looked like she might cry. But she quickly composed herself, standing up abruptly. Good night, Kunle, she said, walking toward the bedroom. Kunle watched her go, the sound of her retreating footsteps echoing in his ears. He leaned back against the couch, his head in his hands. He glanced at his journal on the coffee table. Picking it up, he opened to a blank page and began writing, the words flowing like a confession. Tonight, I saw the depth of her pain and it broke me. I don't know if I can fix this, but I have to try. For her. For Titi. For us. The house grew quiet, the only sound the scratch of his pen on paper. Kunle wrote late into the night, his heart heavy with both regret and determination.